this is Mitch Lee, Ableton certified trainer, course developer at Beat Drop, and today I'm going to build a track and showcase some of the new features in Ableton Live 9. And as you can see over here on the left, the browser has been upgraded and updated, and now it's even faster and even easier to find your sounds that you're looking for. In fact, there's over 3,000 new sounds included in Ableton Live 9. One of the new features of the browser in Ableton Live 9 is the ability to add new folders to your project and to your Ableton Live 9 library. Before, you had to have your sounds in a certain location. Now it's simple. You just hit this add folder button, you navigate to the folder that you want to add, and you simply add it. And what happens is Ableton then learns the content and includes them here in the browser. And as you can see, I have a folder, a project folder, and a samples folder that I'm going to use in this project. And you can add multiple folders. I've got a samples folder full of a whole bunch of my samples and drum kits. This makes things a lot easier. When I begin a track, a lot of times I like to start with the drums. Sometimes I need some inspiration, and so I'm listening to tracks or listening to loops or samples. I would love to be able to have the ability to take those audio files and convert them to MIDI. Well, Ableton Live 9 gives us tools to do that now. If I go to my Beat Camp folder, I know there's a drum loop inside here. I like the pattern, but I don't like the sounds of this. It's easy to simply drag out to an audio track. I can right-click and convert drums to new MIDI track. Now remember, this is an audio file, and what Live 9 is doing is taking this WAV file and recognizing where the kicks, where the snares, and the hi-hats are. So if I solo this and I launch this clip, you can see now that what Ableton's done is given us a drum rack, and it has separated and figured out where the kick, snares, and the hi-hats are. It's fantastic. Now what if I wanted to hear what this pattern sounded like with a different drum kit? No problem. I can double click on the track title bar or hit Shift Tab and hit this hot swap button. Now in the browser here, Live will show us a bunch of different drum kits that we can swap. And what's new to Ableton Live 9 is the ability to preview these before we actually load them into a MIDI track. Make sure your preview headphones icon is selected, and now it'll give you an idea or audition for you what that drum kit sounds like. In this case, I'm going to hit the 808. I'm going to launch this clip. And let's clean this project up a little bit. I am going to rename this Drum Loop Original. And let's call this Drums. And you know what? What I'm going to do here is I'm going to do something I often do when I'm producing is duplicate this 3 times. I'm going to make 3 different patterns very quickly. And I'm going to rename these to 1, 2, 3. In this first MIDI clip, I'm going to get rid of the hi-hats and the snare. And the second one, I'm just going to get rid of the hi-hats. And then this third one will be all in. And I'm actually going to add a little bit of a roll here at the end of this 4 bars. So I'm going to set up a loop area. Command L to loop that, and let's work here. Alright, I'm happy with that. We'll come back and we can maybe further edit that a bit. But I've just gotten 3 different patterns here really quickly. I'm also on this third pattern. I'm going to add on the snare part, I'm going to add this clap in. I know there's a clap right above it, but I'm not going to use that on the roll section. Let's see what that sounds like. And now let's extend this loop length to the whole 4 bars by selecting all and hitting Command L. Okay, cool. Now, similar to the way that we made our drums, we're going to make a bass line. And what I've done is I've pre-recorded me playing acoustic guitar, and I played a little bit of a bass line. And I just recorded it into Ableton Live using my Apogee 1, and here's what it sounds like. And now I'm going to simply drag this out into an empty area. It will automatically make an audio track for me. Let's rename this. Let's call this Guitar Loop Original. And if I double click it, you can see the waveform here, and you can see it's a little bit out of time. And let's warp this This is what Ableton Live is so good with, being able to retime audio to match the tempo of our track. And I know that I want to go up to about 160 BPM. Let's see what this sounds like now. Okay, obviously I don't want the acoustic guitar playing that bass line. I'm going to right click and I'm going to convert this to a new MIDI track. And I'm going to make a bass line. I want to make a bass track with this. If I double click, what Live has done is given me an instrument rack with their analog synth in it. And if I hit play solo and I launch this clip, there it is, the exact notes that I was playing. I'm going to drag the velocity up on this one. But I'm not happy with the sound of this. I want to be able to swap this out with a different sounding bass. So first of all, though, let's keep organized. Let's rename this to bass. And let's go to our browser. And I'm going to search, just show you, type in the word bass. And what it does is Live will show off and show you all the instruments and their bass patches. It's fantastic. It's a really fast way of working and looking for something. I know, though, that the patch I'm looking for has the word funk in it. And I just type that in and it filters again and shows us the 3 options. I'm going to use the one that's in the instrument rack and I'm going to drop this onto our bass track. And now if I hit play, it plays it using this preset. Now, I noticed down here in the macro area of our instrument rack that there's a filter frequency cutoff. I'm assuming that it's tied to this frequency cutoff in the analog synth. And I like the sound of it when I manipulate this. Watch. And as many of you know, Ableton's just brilliant at quickly and easily mapping parameters to MIDI controllers. So I'm just simply going to hit Command M, click on this filter frequency macro, and I'm going to turn a knob on my little MPK Mini, and voila, instantly it's mapped. And what's new in Ableton Live 9 is the ability now to record automation inside clips in the session view. And if I turn on my clip envelopes and I enable recording here, I'm going to have the options of recording this straight into the clip. Now, that is awesome. It's such a fast way of working, and before we couldn't do that, but that's new in Ableton Live 9. Next up, I want to add a vocal to this. And I'm really excited that we've been able to work with Jocelyn and Lisa here, a local artist, and we've been doing a remix competition, and they gave us the stems to their track Preach. You got to check it out. I'll put it in the description and the links there. You got to check their track out and check out the wonderful remixes that people in Calgary and really around the world made for this contest. And I have placed it, I have it in my samples folder. I'm going to X out of my last search. It's in my samples folder, in my remix folder, and I believe it is called the lead vocal. And you can hear a little bit of it. I got a problem. And I'm going to take the vocal stem and drop it, and it will create a new audio track for me. We'll rename this, call this vocal. And I know that at a certain section of the song I want to take some of her little ad-libs at the end here. If I dial in. Actually, let me just play it and let's see what it sounds like. I'm going to make sure that my original guitar loop and my original drum loop is turned off. I'm going to navigate and put those over on the left. And let's hit play and let's see what happens. So let's change that in our clip view here. So let's halftime this sample. And now I know later on in the song there's a part that I really like that I think that might work well. What I've done is I found 8 bars that I liked at the end of Jocelyn's vocal stem. But I want this section not to be in my selection, but I still want the 8 bars to play. So we can handle this with clip automation. I can simply enable my clip envelopes here, and I can make 2 breakpoints, and I can drag this down and out. However, say I wanted to keep some of this section and I wanted it to kind of fade out. What we're able to do in Ableton 9 now is hold down the Option key, and I can make an automation curve, which we were previously unable to do. Next up, let's add a lead line to this. Let's add some sort of gated effect. I want to show off the new gate inside of Ableton Live 9. If I go up to my search window in my browser again, I know I want an instrument, and I know I want a lead line. So if I type in lead again, it's going to give me the instruments that have lead presets. Let's go to my operator, my synth lead. Let's try this Buzz 1 plain lead. I'm going to drag and drop this into an empty area. It's going to create a MIDI track for me with the operator and with this preset. One of the features that's been in Live for a while now is this ability to route audio and MIDI from anywhere to anywhere. And I'm not even going to play in some new notes here. I'm going to simply take our bass notes and, in a sense, riff on those. So from my new lead track, I'm going to rename this, call this our lead, and I'm going to make sure my ins and outs are turned on, and I'm going to take audio from my bass track, and I'm going to set my monitor to in. So now if I was to hit play here, what's happening here is the bass notes, the notes from my bass track are actually being fed into my lead track, and they're playing through this operator. Obviously that doesn't sound like a lead line. It sounds pretty harsh actually. So let's add some MIDI effects to put this into the range that would be appropriate. If I go to my pitch MIDI effect, double click, as long as my track here is enabled, it will place it before my operator, and I'm going to jump this up. I don't know, let's try 24 semitones, which would be 2 full octaves. Okay, it's getting there. It's still sounding a little bit static. Let's try to add some gated effects to this. Check out the new gate that's been revamped. I'm going to go to my audio effects, and I'm going to drag out. Sometimes there's this list can be quite big, so we can search down, simply type in gate, drag this gate onto our lead line, and you can see that it looks a little bit different. I'm actually going to sidechain this, and I'm going to take an input from our drums, and I'm going to take the hi-hats, and now if I hit play on this, down here you're going to see the hi-hats, the audio from the hi-hats waveforms show up down here. I'm going to lower my threshold, and I should be able to start hearing something. Now what's happening is this gate is opening and closing depending upon my hi-hats. It's a great way just to mix it up and get a different type of effect on the synth and to trigger this. And again, we have no MIDI clips in here at all. It's just we're taking the notes from this bass track into our lead track here. Alright, next up I want to show off some of the new devices in Max for Live. You'll notice here on the browser we have actually a Max for Live folder. And in Ableton Live 9 Suite, Max for Live is included. Max for Live is simply an add-on feature that enables people to develop and to create instruments and effects for Ableton Live. It's a great community, and there's new stuff coming out all the time, and in Live 9 Suite it's actually included. And I wanted to show one of the new Max for Live effects. It's called LFO, and if I add this at the end of my chain, you'll notice Max for Live start up. And it's a really cool device that I can map to any parameter in my instrument rack. I simply click this little map button, and then I scroll over to a parameter that I want it to map to, and in this case I'm going to map it to my frequency cutoff in the filter inside of my operator, and you'll notice it's going nuts now. And I can dial, I'm going to solo this, and let's fine tune this a bit. Alright, let's start to mix and sculpt some of our sounds. Another new audio effect that comes in Ableton Live 9 is a compressor called the Glue. And it's modeled after this very famous British console, and it's actually the bus compressor that's on this console. And it sounds fantastic on a lot of things, and especially drums. I'm going to navigate to my browser here, and I'm going to look for the Glue compressor, and I'm going to throw it on top of my drum rack. And I'm going to solo up my drums, and let's listen to it closely as we engage some of the parameters. Let's watch our gain stage. Let's bring these down. I'm actually going to bring down the level of our kick just a bit. And it sounds like butter on drums. It sounds great on everything. New audio effect that comes with Ableton Live 9. Another great device that's included in Max for Live is the new Convolution Reverb. And if I go to, again, to my Max audio effect folder and I look for the Convolution Reverb, I want to use this as a send on my drum rack. I want to be able to send some of my claps and my snares there. And if I double click on my drum rack, all I have to do is enable my sends and returns. And then I can be able to drag this Convolution Reverb into this area here, which will become a return track for my drum rack. And Convolution Reverb is fairly simple. What it is basically a model of different rooms. And it's a recording of all these different rooms. And there's lots of different types, these plates, drum spaces, springs, and there's lots of different presets or impulse responses that come with this. It's fantastic. I'm actually going to go to a plate, and I'm going to go to this Swede plate, and I'm going to navigate to my snare. I'm going to turn up some of the send. Let's listen. It's nice. I'm also going to enable the clap. Give it a little bit of reverb. Some of these reverbs sound fantastic, so it's a great addition. So that's a Convolution Reverb that comes with Max for Live, comes with Ableton Live 9 Suite. You got to use it. Alright, next up, I want to sidechain my bass. I want my kick drum, my nice 808 kick drum coming through, and the technique everyone likes to use is Sidechain Compression. So this gives me a chance to show off the new compressor that's in Ableton Live 9. I'm going to drop it onto my bass track, and I'm going to enable the sidechain portion of my compressor. I'm going to set my input to the kick drum. And now what you'll notice straight away, there's three different types of views. The traditional view that was similar to the old one, the collapse view, we've got the curve view, and then we got this new activity view that is fantastic. If I hit play, you'll start to see the kick drum, the waveform or the transient come through here. I'm going to move my ratio up to 4:1. I usually like to start around there for side chaining. And let's start to bring the threshold down, and you'll visually see the volume come down on my kick drum. Sorry, on my bass track. Let's solo the bass just to hear what's going on here. Let's bring it even more. So you can hear as soon as the kick hits, it's ducking or lowering the volume of my bass track. Another new audio effect that comes with Ableton Live 9, it's actually not new, but it's just been revamped, and that's the EQ8. I'm going to drop this onto Jocelyn's vocal track, and the first thing you'll see is that what Live's done is given us a bunch of different new curve types or filters. And if I double click this section here, it actually gives us the whole way more real estate, and it shows it right up into similar to the Spectrum plugin that was in Ableton Live 9. And if I hit play on the lead line, sorry, the vocal track, you'll start to see, you can see the waveforms, you can see the frequency range as I mouse over. And I want to just be able to cut some of the frequencies down here. And you'll notice as soon as you start working with this, it sounds so much better. All the curves and the filters have been reprogrammed, and they sound like butter. And I'm dead serious on this. So I'm going to make a high pass filter, and I'm just going to start sweeping this a bit. All right, so I'm just going to cut a lot of the lows. And I'm going to create this number 6 band. I'm going to make this shelf, and I'm going to just lift up some of the highs here. You can see that's so nice and crisp in the high ends. Let's see how that sits now. Sounds so nice. Now that we've got the beginnings of a track, typically we'd move to the arrangement phase. And the best place to do that is in the arrangement view within Ableton Live. And if you're new to Ableton Live, there's 2 views or ways of looking at your project. We've been in the session view this whole time. This other view, if I hit tab, moves us to the arrangement view. And as you can see, I've got a little bit of an arrangement going already. I've pre-baked this, and it's just simple 16 bar chunks and just emulating what might look like an arrangement. Now, for those who perform and play live with Ableton, you'll know that once you've arranged and created your track, it's a little bit tedious creating scenes and getting it prepared to play live. You'll be happy to know that Ableton has made that simpler. So I'm going to simply select a 16 bar chunk here and say that's my intro. I can go up to create, consolidate, time to new scene. Now if I hit tab and go back to session view, you'll see that there's been a new scene created, number 9. Now it's in fact those clips that I have in my arrangement view. And say I wanted this, say this was my chorus or my drop section. I could highlight that 16 bar segment, consolidate time to new scene. And quickly and easily I have my intro and the chorus part. So you guys are going to love that. It's a fantastic way to easily create scenes from your new arrangement. Now, as you can see, Ableton's added some fantastic new features. But before I review those, I just want you to remember where we started. We started off with this drum loop as inspiration. And then we used this pre-recorded guitar loop. And that got us all the way here. So some of the new features in Ableton Live 9 is the ability to convert audio to MIDI. You can convert melody, harmony, and drums. The browser has been updated. It's faster. It's easier to find your sounds quickly. And you can customize it. You can add folders from all over your computer. There's over 3,000 new sounds included in Ableton Live 9, and we can record session view automation inside clips. There's automation curves now. When we're mixing, the glue compressor is brand new. It sounds fantastic. The EQ8, compressor, and gate have all gotten a facelift and have been revamped. There's new MIDI transform tools that make editing MIDI more creative and quicker. And Max for Live is now included in Ableton Live 9 with 24 new devices. And I highlighted the LFO and the Convolution Reverb, which sounds great. It's in the Live 9 Suite bundle. Anyway, thanks for watching. Check out our other tutorials. And I'd love to hear any questions that you might have on the new Ableton Live 9.